What's going on YouTube? In today's tutorial, we are inside of Affinity Designer and we're going to take a look at how to create ourselves a reward chart, just like the one that you can see on the screen in front of you. So if this is something you would like to learn, then let's go ahead and get started. So here we are at the startup screen in Affinity Designer V2. And the first thing that we want to do is set up our canvas to be the correct size for our project. And a good size canvas for this type of project is going to be the A4, and you also want to make sure that your orientation is set to landscape. And just one last thing, if you guys wish to print this after you created it, just go ahead and make sure that you set your DPI to 300. So with that said, let's go ahead and hit the create button to get started. So here we are inside of the Affinity Designer interface, and the first thing that we want to do with our project is create ourselves a background. And the quickest and easiest way of doing this is to use a stock library that we have over here on the left hand side. If you guys aren't seeing this stock library right here, then the way that you would find that is up in your menu bar at the top. Go down towards the bottom to where it says stock. Then all you got to do is just simply drag that and drop that into your panels over here on the left hand side. That way you can switch in between all of your panels. So the way that we would use the stock library is just by simply searching for anything we would like inside of here. What I do want to do is turn on this vector option right there, as that's going to allow us to find graphics that don't have backgrounds, which is going to make it a little bit easier when it comes to putting our project together and making our design just to look that little bit better. So first of all, I'll find myself a background, and as I'm basing this on a kids reward chart, I'm going to go something that's kind of cartoony, maybe a dinosaur chart or something along those lines. So first of all, I'll find myself a background by typing maybe forest. Hit enter on my keyboard, then we can go through these images and find a background that we like. So that one right there, just to be quick, will do. So I drag and drop that onto my canvas. Then I'll just resize that to make sure it fits across the entire canvas. Then I'll go ahead and hit Command or Control 0 just to fit to screen. I'll just go ahead and get that out of the way for the moment. So that is a background already complete. And what I want to do next is just bring in a few different graphics of maybe dinosaurs just to bring this image together. So once again, we'll go back over to the left hand side, and this time round we will search for dinosaurs. So as you can see, we have a few different options in here, and the more we scroll down, the more images you will find. It's just a case of you going through these and looking for something that you like. But for me, just to be quick, I'm going to go and find something simple. So I'll just make my way down the list a little bit and try and find something that I like. I'll go ahead and maybe grab this one to begin with. And we'll place these around the canvas in just a moment when I find a few more that I want to use. So once again, I'll go through some of these images. I'll grab that one right there and drag that one in as well. Then we'll just keep making our way through some of these images to find other ones that we may like and may want to use inside of our design. So I'll grab that one right there as well. And we'll come back to this in a little while, but for now we'll go ahead and just start creating our background to look a little bit better. So first of all, I'm going to make this dinosaur bigger. And I think I'm going to flip him around. So I'm going to come up to the top here to where we have flip horizontal. And I'll just have him over in this corner of the image. And just roughly move that where I want it to go. Then the dinosaur in the background, I'm just going to bring over here. And just make him a little bit smaller as he's going to be in the background. And what I want to do is just move this background over a little bit. Just to see if we can get a bit more greenery in the background. As we've got a couple of trees over there that may look better to use it on that side. Then we can just move this dinosaur over here a little bit, as now we have more greenery, so we've got more space for him to move around. And with this one up here, we'll make him a little bit smaller and just bring him roughly up there in between the tree branches. So this background doesn't look too bad at the moment. However, I'm going to add a few more dinosaurs in this later on once I start bringing in all of the other parts that make up our design. But what I want to do first of all is just group everything here together in the background, just so we don't disturb any of that when we're creating the rest of our chart. So if we make our way over to the right hand side layers panel and we select the one at the top, hold down shift on your keyboard, select the one at the bottom. That way it will select everything that's in between those layers. Go ahead and hit Command or Control G to group. Then we can just double tap on that and call that background. Then just for now, I'm going to go ahead and just lock that so we can't move anything around by accident. So what I want to do next is I want to create a rectangle over on the left hand side, which is going to hold the list of chores that we have to do in order to get the reward at the end of the week. So if I make my way over to the left hand side toolbar menu and I select the rectangle tool, then it's just a case of snapping into that left corner and just dragging this out to be as big as you like it to be. I'm going to go for roughly around 17mm on the width, and the height, that doesn't look too bad. I might make that a little bit bigger or smaller later on, but for now I'll just leave that the way it is. What I want to do with this next is I want to drop the opacity just a little bit so we can see some of the design in the background. So the way that we would do that is going back over to the right hand side, just over here where it says opacity. We're going to go ahead and change that to maybe around 80%, just so we can slightly see through that. Then what I want to do next is apply a drop shadow to this, just so it separates that from the background. So if we make our way back over to the right hand side, just down the bottom here where we have the effects panel, go ahead and select outer shadow, and all we need to change is the radius and the offset. We'll go ahead and change that to around 10 pixels on both of those. Hit enter on your keyboard and see what we have on our design. And that doesn't look too bad. I'm quite happy with the way that looks for now. So looking at my rectangle, I think I want to round these corners just here. So I'm going to make my way back over to the left hand side toolbar menu. I'm going to grab this option right here, which is a corner tool. And I'm going to select this one at the top. I'm going to hold down shift on my keyboard while I select the one at the bottom. That then lets me control both of these at the same time. Then it's just a case of just dragging that in to get the rough size that you would like. And you can see just at the top there where we have the radius, it's telling you the size in there. So I'm going to put that roughly around 10mm, but you guys can have any size that you would like. Then I'll just go ahead and deselect that. And this is what we have at the moment. So what we need next is a few different lines in here that's going to separate our chores list. So if we make our way back over to the left hand side once again, and we'll grab ourselves a pen tool. All we've got to do with this is create ourselves a start point. So we'll tap anywhere here, somewhere about there will be fine. Hold down shift on your keyboard. That then will keep that line perfectly straight. Go ahead and just drag that to the other side. Then making our way over to the right hand side toolbar panels. Inside of our color, we're going to make sure our stroke is on black. And inside of our stroke panel menu, we're going to make that width a little bit bigger so we can see that line, as you can see right there. I'm going to go ahead and set that to 1 point. If you guys don't see your stroke panel, once again, that is in your window menu at the top here. Just go down to where it says stroke and just drag that into the panels like we did before. Then you'll also have access to this panel as well. So what I want to do is I want to change this from being a solid line to a dotted line, which we'll do right here inside of the style. Then I'm just going to come down to where we have all of these boxes right here. And inside of this second box, I'm going to change that number from 1 to number 4. That then is going to give me bigger spacing in between my dots. So if I just come off this for a second, you can see that we have this spacing right here. If we change these numbers in here to be bigger or smaller, so if I go for number 8, that's going to space them further apart, as you can see. And if you go back down to number 1, that's going to make them really close together. So that's all dependent on the type of effect you guys want. For me, I kind of like the way that 4 looks, so I'll go ahead and leave that the way it is. Okay, so what I want to do next is I want to nest this line inside of this rectangle just so it doesn't accidentally come outside of the shape into the image in the background, as you can see right there. And the way that we would go ahead and do that is just by simply going back over to our layers on the right hand side, grabbing our line, which is this curve right here, and just drag that on top of our rectangle till it highlights completely blue, just like that. Let that go. And now that is nested inside of our shape. So if we go ahead and just move that over and just deselect that, you can see that it remains inside of the shape and it's clipped to that shape at all times. So I'll just go ahead and undo that and put that back. That, of course, is personal preference if you guys want to do that. But moving on with the tutorial, what we're going to do next is create a few more lines inside of here. So I'm just going to drag this up a little bit just to allow a little bit less spacing at the top there. And now we're going to make some duplicated copies of this line. So if you guys have already updated your Affinity Designer to 2.2, then we do have a brand new feature inside of this update, which I find really useful. And what that allows us to do is quickly and easily move and duplicate objects. So with this line selected right here, all you got to do is hit enter on your keyboard. And you can see we now have this new menu appear. This wasn't available prior the 2.2 update. However, as long as you guys have the most updated version, you should have this tool available. So what we're going to do inside of here is we want to move this down vertically, and we just need to decide on the rough size that we want. So inside this vertical menu right here, I'm going to change that to around 15mm. I'll hit enter on my keyboard, and I'm going to check this option right here that says duplicate. Once I go ahead and do that, you can now see that we have two lines right there, the one at the top and the one at the bottom. And if we come down to where it says number of copies, and we'll go ahead and we'll just change this to add as many in there as we like, and just keep adding that till you fill up the box. So that looks perfectly fine to me. And as you can see, we have that 15mm even spacing across all of these different lines. So I'm happy with the way that looks. So I'll go ahead and hit OK. So I'm definitely a fan of that new updated feature. I find that really quick and easy to use. So what we want to do next is we're going to add a little bit of text in here. So just at the top here, we'll write in my chores. So we'll make our way back over to the left-hand side toolbar menu. Inside of here, we will select the frame text tool. Then it's just a case of just dragging this out to any size that you would like, and then just typing in my chores inside of here. Then we'll select all of our text so we can change the font to make that something a little bit better, and we'll go ahead and make that a little bit bigger in size. What I want to do next is just center that inside of my text frame. So we'll make our way up to the top menu bar, and we'll use that align center option. Then we'll come over to the right hand side and we'll center that vertically as well. Then we'll go ahead and just deselect that, and then that's not looking too bad. So moving on, what you guys can do is you can either type in your chores list on your computer right now, or you can do this with a pen once you printed it. But just to bring this design together a little bit, I'll go ahead and create all the text on the computer right now. So just like before, we're going to duplicate that text like we did with these lines. So we'll go ahead and we'll select that, we'll hit enter. Then once again, we're going to follow the exact same measurements that we used for the lines. So vertically, we'll go ahead and we'll choose 15mm. Hit OK on that one. Then we'll go ahead and hit duplicate. Then it's just a case of adjusting that number of copies to fill all of our lines down here. Then once again, once we're happy with that, we'll go ahead and hit OK. Then what we need to do is inside of our layers over on the right hand side, we'll go ahead and ignore the one at the top right there, as I'm going to leave that in the center. But the rest of these I want to move slightly over to the left. So I'll select the one at the bottom just here, hold down shift while selecting the one at the top. That then will select all of those in the middle. Then all I'm going to do is simply drag that over to the left hand side. Then we can just deselect that for the moment. Then all we need to do is change all of this text in here. So we'll go and grab our frame text tool again. Then we just got to hover over this and just start highlighting them and changing them. So just to be a little bit quicker with the video, I'll just go ahead and just type anything in here, and I'll pause it real quick, and I'll see you guys in just a moment. Okay, so here is a quick list that I put together. However, you guys can use anything you like inside of here. And like I said, you can write this with a pen, or of course do it on your computer. It's up to you. So what we want to do next is create ourselves a little checkbox so we can tick that off when we've completed each one of these tasks. So just like before, we'll make our way over to the left-hand side toolbar menu, and we'll grab the rectangle tool. And I'm going to hold down shift as I drag this out just to make that perfect square, and just make that as big as you like. I'll have that roughly around 8.5, and I may adjust that in just a moment, but I'll go ahead and just move that over into place, keeping that centered with the text, and bring that roughly over there. Then what I want to do is go into my color menu over on the right hand side. I'm going to turn off the fill with that little circle right there with a red line through that. Then with our strokes selected, we want to go ahead and make that a solid line rather than a dotted line. Then we'll just deselect all of that and see what we've got. So that doesn't look too bad at the moment. So just like before, using that new update option, we'll go ahead and select that square, hit enter on our keyboard. Then we'll go ahead, once again, we're going vertically as we're going down. So we'll go and change that to 15 like we did before. Just hit enter on your keyboard. Hit that duplicate button so we can see it. Then just add the relevant number of copies that you would like in there. Then go ahead and hit OK. Okay, so let me know in the comments if you guys love this brand new duplicating feature as much as I do. It definitely speeds things up in my opinion. So moving on, what we're going to do next is maybe bring in a couple of more dinosaurs that we can have at the bottom here, and maybe one at the top. So over on the left hand side, once again, I'll go and select maybe that one right there. Just drag that onto the canvas and move that into position. So I'll just have him sat underneath the brush teeth. And maybe just make that a little bit smaller and just move that up a little bit, just somewhere around there be fine. And I'll also add one at the top here, so maybe just that one right there, just drag that on, resize that just to fit at the top, and just place that maybe above my chores. Just drag that down a little bit, just so we can get that on the entire image, and just move that into position. And that is looking pretty good in my opinion. So what we're going to do next is bring in some other shapes that we can use for our days of the week. So making our way back over to the left hand side toolbar menu. This time round we're going to choose the ellipse tool. And just like before, I'll hold down shift on my keyboard while I start to drag that out just to keep that a perfect circle. And I'm going to make that width and the height of around 13mm. You guys can of course have any size that you like. Then what I want to do next is, just like on our rectangle, I want to drop the opacity. So I'll make my way back up over to the right hand side and we'll change that from 100% down to 80%. And I also want to add a drop shadow like we did as well on the rectangle. So back down to the effects panel, and inside of here we'll choose outer shadow, and we'll change the radius and the offset to be around 10 pixels on both of those. Go ahead and hit enter. Then that is our circle created. So I'll just grab my move tool while I put that into position. I'm going to have that roughly up here somewhere. Then what I want to do next is just add a little bit of text inside of here, which is going to say day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, etc. So we'll make our way back over to the left hand side toolbar menu. Once again, we will grab our frame text tool and we'll just draw out a frame inside of this circle. And you can just write in here day 1. Just go ahead and select all of that text and we'll center that just like we did before. And what I want to do, just to make sure this is perfectly centered in the circle, is I'm just going to snap that to the edges of the circle on the left and the right and on the top and the bottom. Then it's going to sit center of that shape. Okay, so the idea now is we want to duplicate this day 1 7 times over to the right hand side. So before I go ahead and duplicate that, I just want to group together the day 1 and the ellipse. So I'm going to make my way back over to the right hand side layers panel. I'm going to select the day 1, hold down shift while I select the ellipse as well. Then I'm going to hit command or control G to group. Then I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this new group as many times as I need to. So once again, with the group selected, hit enter on your keyboard. This time round, we are going horizontal as we are coming across the page rather than down. So this is going to be trial and error in terms of getting these numbers right. You want to make sure that you can fit 7 of these across a page without coming off the canvas. So we'll go ahead and just try a few different numbers and see what we come up with. So first of all, I'll try maybe 30mm. And we'll go ahead and turn on that duplicate so we can see it. And that is definitely far too close to each other. So what I'll do is I'll go in here and then I'll try 32, give that one a try. And I'm more happy with that spacing in between the two of those. So I'll go ahead and make some more copies and make 7 of those. And as you can see, that fits perfectly on the page. So I'm quite happy to leave that the way it is. So now I'll go ahead and hit OK. And the idea now is I want to duplicate this again in just a moment. So we're going to make this a 4-week chart. So that's going to be week 1, then we'll have week 2, week 3, week 4, etc. But before I go ahead and duplicate that, I just want to change all these day numbers. So we'll go and grab our frame text tool once again, and we'll just change this one to day 2. And the next one will be day 3, and then we'll do day 4, etc. Okay, so that's now complete. What we need to do before we go ahead and just duplicate these is you want to close all of your groups, as we're going to select all of these circles, and it's going to make it a little bit easier. So once again, we're going to select the top one right here. We're going to hold down shift and select the bottom one. That way it'll select everything in between that. Then we'll go and hit enter on our keyboard. And this time around, we are going to choose vertical as we're coming down the page. And just like before, it's going to be trial and error with the numbers that you put in here just to get the perfect spacing that you are going for. I could, of course, choose 32, which we had right there, to keep that even all the way across the design. However, I want to be able to put a little box inside of this underneath each one saying which week we are on. So I'm going to need a little bit more spacing than what we have there. So what I'll do, first of all, I'll try maybe 40. I'll go ahead and hit enter. I'll turn on the duplicate so we can see the spacing. And that doesn't look too bad. We definitely have room in there to put a box in there, maybe write week 1, week 2, etc. down the page. So I'll go ahead and make a couple of more copies, just so we've got week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. You can, of course, come in here now, even with all your copies selected, and change those numbers and maybe get your spacing smaller. It all depends on what you're happy with. For me, I'm going to keep that around 40 as it looks pretty good. Then I'll go ahead and hit OK. So what we need to do at this point is we're going to group all of these circles together so we can move that as a whole. So over in our layers on the right hand side, we'll select the top one, make our way down the list, select the bottom one while holding shift. That way it selects everything in between. Hit Command or Control G to group. And it's up to you if you want to name that. You can if you like. You can just call that days of the week. And now you are free to move this around anywhere you would like to place it. So what I would do personally if I was to print this, because I own a Cricut machine, I have the option to print and cut my own stickers. So I would generally design a sticker to be 30mm, and I will just cut them out on my Cricut machine and I will stick these on there every day that goes by. However, if you guys don't have that option, you can of course just use a pen and tick this off every day that goes by. Or of course you can just go into Amazon or eBay or maybe just your local craft store and just buy some random dinosaur stickers that you can just stick on here. That is entirely up to you. I may do a follow-on video where I'll design some stickers where we can go ahead and print and cut those. So what we need to do next is just at the bottom here, I'm going to put in a few different shapes where we can write down what we're going to give as a reward at the end of each week that is completed. So going back over to the left hand side toolbar menu, this time around I think I will select the rounded rectangle tool, and I'm just going to drag that out to be a rough size where I could probably fit 4 of these across the page. So I'll go ahead and make that around 50mm for the moment. Then just like before, we'll copy the exact same style that we got on all of this. So we'll go and drop that opacity to 80, and we'll also put a drop shadow on that as well. So we'll go down to the effects, go ahead and choose outer shadow, and we'll put 10 pixels just to keep that consistent on both of those. Then we'll go ahead and look at what we got, see if we're happy with the size of that. I may make that a little bit bigger in height, so maybe around 14mm will be fine. Then we'll go ahead and duplicate this. So once again, we'll go and select that, hit enter on our keyboard. And this time we'll choose horizontal once again as we're coming over to the right hand side of the page. And we just got to have the trial and error moment with our numbers just to get this right. And I'm going to go straight in and put around 50. Go ahead and hit enter. Hit that duplicate button so we can see that. And straight away they're basically touching each other, so we do need a bit more spacing. But first of all, I just put my other 2 in there. Then we'll just have a little play around with the numbers. So I'll go maybe 53 and just see where we're at there. That doesn't look too bad. I've got a little bit more space over here, so I think I'll make that just a little bit bigger and go for 54. And go ahead and just move all of these together as I'm happy with the way that looks. So I'll go ahead and hit OK. I'll select all of these rectangles starting with the one at the top, hold down shift on my keyboard so I can select the one at the bottom. Then we'll go and just group all that together with Command or Control G. Then we'll just go and move this and try and center it with that one in the middle right there, as you can see with that green line, and just move that into position. So I'll bring this down towards the bottom of the page, as just above here I'll have some text that will say weekly rewards. And once again in here you can use a pen if you like to write that manually, or if you're going to print this off you can of course type this in on your keyboard. And we can do that real quick just by selecting any of these texts over here, and we'll just make a quick copy with Command or Control C and Command or Control V to paste. And we can just drag that on top of the shape. Just make sure that we bring that all the way to the top of our layer so we can see it. And we can of course just reshape that to fit inside of our box. And we'll go and center that as it look a little bit better. And you can just rename this to be anything that you like. So we can just put in sweets inside of this one. Then we'll just go and make a copy of this as well. We can of course duplicate it, but it might just be a little bit quicker if we just hold Command and drag this over. And then we'll do the same once again and just drag that over to each one of these. Just make sure that they all do line up perfectly. And then we can go inside of here and just change all of this to be anything else that you would like. So that step is now complete. And just to make a quick copy of this, if I didn't cover that a moment ago, you just got to hold down Command or Control when you select that and drag away. Then you can see we've got a copy of that just to be a little bit quicker. I'll go ahead and just delete that. Okay, so we're not far from finished with this design. We just need a few more things inside of here. So what we're going to do next is we're going to make our way back over to the left-hand side toolbar menu. Once again, I'll select the rounded rectangle, and I'm just going to draw out a rough size shape where I'm going to write in week 1 or week 2, etc. And you can make that as big as you like. It's entirely up to you. I'll have that around 9mm. Make that a little bit smaller in width. Then I'm going to go and give this a color. So I'm going to come over to my color wheel and maybe give that a color of green. And I also want to add a drop shadow to that. So we'll come back down to our effects. We'll choose outer shadow and we'll go ahead and give that 10 pixels once again, just to see how that looks. So 10 pixels on the radius and the offset. And I'm quite happy with that. So I'm going to go and move that into position. I want that roughly in the center. Move that down a little bit towards the circles using my arrow keys. As up here, I want to be able to add a name. So that is looking pretty good at the moment. So what I want to do inside of here is we're going to write in our week. So just to be quick, we'll grab this text down here. Like I said, we'll hold down Command or Control while dragging that away. That then will make a copy of that. We just need to drag that up to the top of our layer so we can see it. Then inside of here, we can write down any week that we are on. So I'll just put in week 1. Then once again, I'm just going to drag this box out just to snap to the corners of the rectangle, just so I know my text is going to stay in the center. And then I'm going to change the color of that text to be white, as I think it may look a little bit better. But first of all, I've got to make sure that I do select all of that text to change the color. Go ahead and make that white. Then what I want to do next is just group both of these together. So I've got the week 1 and the rectangle. So we'll select both of those, hit Command or Control G to group. Then we'll just see how that looks. So that doesn't look too bad. You can, of course, come in here and change the colors if you want to go a little bit darker or lighter or maybe a different color altogether. That's entirely up to you. However, looking at this, I think it might be a little bit too big. So first of all, I want to just select that text. I'm going to make that a little bit smaller. I'm going to go roughly around 16. And that will just give me a little bit more room to make this box a bit smaller. So I'll go ahead and drag that down a little bit. Grab my move tool. I'm just going to drag that up just so it's centered with the text. Then that should definitely fit in there a lot easier. So what I'll do now is I'm going to duplicate this once again down the page. So before I do that, I'm just going to use my arrow keys just to move that a little bit closer to the circles. Then we'll go ahead and hit enter. Then inside of here, once again, we are going vertical as we're coming down. So we're going to have some big numbers here in order to get them in these gaps. So I'll go ahead and try maybe 80. And that's definitely far too big, but we'll turn on that duplicate. And we're going to need roughly around 40 by the looks of this. So we'll go and change the 80 to be 40. And that isn't looking too bad. So I'll make a couple more copies. Then what we need to do after we hit OK is just adjust these weeks in here to bring them down a little bit so they sit in the center. So inside of these, I'm going to go and select all of the text. So I'll select the week 1 just down there. Hold down Command or Control while I select the rest of these weeks. Then we can go ahead and just use our arrow keys and just move that into the center of the shape. Then with that complete, we can go and grab our text tool and we can just change the rest of these weeks to week 1, week 2, etc. Then once that's complete, all we need to do is just go and change these colors a little bit just to separate these weeks. So we'll select that one first. Then we'll go and give this one a different color as well. Go and select the other one. You guys can, of course, make better color choices than this. I just want to be a little bit quicker with the video. So that step is now complete. And this is what we have so far. So just a couple of more things before we finish this video. Just down here at the bottom, we'll have another one of these where it's going to say weekly rewards. Then we'll have a name at the top. So just to be a little bit quicker, we'll select this one here, hold down Command or Control while we drag away. Then we can make a duplicate copy of that. Then inside of here, we'll just change this text all together, which is going to say weekly rewards. Then once again, I'll go ahead and change the color of that shape to be a little bit different to the others. So I'll just go with purple to be quick. I'm going to make this box a little bit bigger on the one at the bottom. As you can see, the Y slightly sticks out. So I'll go ahead and just make that a little bit bigger as we have a bit more space at the bottom anyway. Then we'll select that text. Using our arrow keys, we'll just bring that up and put that into the rough position we are happy with. Then all that is really left to do now is we're going to personalize it with any name at the top here that you would like to use. So we'll just keep all the font consistent with what we got on our page right here. So I'll go ahead and just select and copy any of these using Command or Control and drag that away. Then we'll go ahead and just put in here anything that you would like. So I'll just type in your reward chart. Then what we need to do next is just make this box a little bit bigger so we can make this as big as we like. I'll go ahead and I'll just bring that all the way across, just so we can have this centered. Then we'll select all of that text. We'll make that font a lot bigger so we can see it. So any size that you would like, 36 looks pretty good. Then I'm going to go and color that to be white rather than black, as I think it's going to stand out a little bit better on the background. And just like before, we'll go ahead and give it a drop shadow. So we'll go and choose outer shadow in our effects. choose 10 pixels on the radius and on the offset and see how that looks. So that doesn't look too bad in my opinion. I think if anything, this name right here should be centered more over here with the circles. So I'll go ahead and just adjust that box right there and try and get that to be the rough size of these circles that we have there. Then we'll go ahead and just move that back into place. Then it's going to look more centered in the middle of the circles rather than the page itself. And you can of course make that bigger if you like. It's up to you. If you want your text to be bigger than that, you can. So we'll go ahead and maybe make that 48. And we'll just go and move that into position and see where we are happy with it. So I'll move it up a little bit and go ahead and just deselect that. So that is looking pretty good. This is quite a simple design, but hopefully you guys get a rough idea of how easy it is to put this together. Of course, if you remember at the beginning, I did choose around 15 millimeters on this spacing over here. If you want a bigger chores list, you can of course make that smaller in the spacing, maybe go for 10 millimeters. That's entirely up to you. You can also have different size boxes for your check marks. That's also up to you. So all that's really left to do now is we go up to File and we go down to Print. And what I recommend, if you guys have the option to print borderless, you go ahead and do that by selecting your paper size, choose A4 borderless. That way that is going to go from edge to edge and that is going to make your reward chart look a lot more professional rather than having a white border around the outside. However, I know some printers don't always have that option, so you guys just have to work with what you've got. And another recommendation I have before you go ahead and print this is that you select the option to print on glossy photo paper, as that's going to look so much better in terms of the quality. So if you haven't already, please go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button, as that really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm and helps other people find my content. And if any of you guys made it all the way to the end of the video, I want to personally say thank you for sticking with me throughout the entire thing. And I really appreciate you giving me your time. So for now, I hope you have a great day and I will see you in the next video.